in strong yet growing bilateral economic relations between India and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Construction sector is identified as a major pillar of cooperation, be it in terms of human resources, synergetic policies and regulations, or investments. But with the dynamic challenges, it is must that we hold hands to explore the possibilities of mutually beneficial collaboration. Without any further delay, we would like to begin the program with a short video on India's construction sector.
India program opportunities for construction industry in India, in Saudi Arabia, because like India, the construction industry is also growing at around 8% in the kingdom. Um, Despite the challenges which we had seen in the pandemic, where we saw that there was an initial slowdown or scaling down of some mega projects because of COVID-19 economic contraction had taken place. The government had to reduce the spending and reappropriate some of the funds to healthcare. But nevertheless, we see that the construction activity has picked up. We have been all seeing several positive stories, and the one that particularly caught my attention was the line at NEOM. And of course, it has caught the headlines of all the major countries and business houses across the world in the construction industry. 170-kilometer long stretch of connected future project communities connected by clean energy, empowered by advanced technologies and high-speed mobility. This is something, at least it gives the confidence to the industry that such major projects are coming in. I had the opportunity to visit NEOM. I had the opportunity also to have discussions with other agencies like the Diriyah Development Authority, the Qiddiya Entertainment City. So under the Vision 2030, when you look at these mega projects, including NEOM, Red Sea Beach project, and all the ones which I talked about, King Abdullah Economic City, you find that the entire industry is poised to have a high growth trajectory. It is expected that the kingdom will become one of the largest construction markets in the Middle East, with more than $800 billion of investment originating from these kinds of large infrastructure projects under the Vision 2030. So we are looking at a very dynamic situation of opportunities in the kingdom. And not only these mega projects, which we talked about, is a huge projects, but also I think there are more than, I understand, 5,000 capital projects, which are worth 1.6 trillion, which are currently under pre-execution stage. Besides this, there are also 5 million social housing units, I understand, which is being planned under 2030. We do have a MOU on housing sector between India and Saudi Arabia, where there's a lot of areas of cooperation which are enshrined under that. But that, of course, which also involves sharing of modern construction techniques and then sharing of knowledge and R&D. As you know, now the kingdom has shifted its housing construction industry from the traditional methods to the technology-based modern methods of construction. So I think this is, again, between government to government, we feel that there is an opportunity, and also opportunity between the construction companies, private construction companies. So one, we talked about the major projects which are coming in, then the social housing. Then another area which I feel will be of interest to Indian companies would be the Haram expansion projects. As you know, the two holy cities of Makkah and Medina, there's a lot of construction which has happened in the past, but which is also happening. So this also could provide an opportunity. There are long-term plans, as you may be aware, of expanding not only Makkah and Medina, but also the Mashar region to cater to around 15 million Umrah pilgrims and around 5 million Hajj pilgrims by 2030. So there are these opportunities which are also there in the religious tourism sector. Because obviously when such a large number of pilgrims come, you do need proper housing to house them. Now, and last but not the least, I feel that a sector which is very important, which our Indian companies should look at, is the tourism industry in Saudi Arabia, because this industry also offers a lot of opportunities to the construction sector. Billions of dollars are being spent in the tourism infrastructure in the kingdom. They're developing at least 38 major tourist sites and planning to attract large number of tourists. And of course, as you know, the tourism policy, when it was announced, around 69 or 70 nations have been given to visa on arrival. We are also expecting that a similar concession would also be given to Indian tourists on arrival, so that you also would expect other than the religious tourists, general tourists would come from all across. You would have also read that the Ministry of Tourism is seeking to attract new investments worth almost $58 billion by 2023 and around $133 billion by 2030 in these sectors. So in this sector, you have opportunities for construction of hotels, motels, and tourism resorts. Some Indian companies, I understand, are already have expressed interest to be part of some of these prestigious projects, such as the Virya. But then the entire field is open for Indian companies to explore opportunities in these mega projects, in the social housing projects, in the religious tourism and the normal tourism. There are so many experts who are here and who would be also joining us virtually. So I do not like to dwell much on this subject and rather listen and enrich myself with the thoughts which would come in. But I would like to express my sincere thanks to all the participants, especially those from the Ministry of Investment, Invest India, and CIDC, on all the Indian construction companies who have agreed to be part of this hybrid program. Thank you very much.
I request Mr. Fahad Al Hashim, Director Real Estate Division, Ministry of Investment, Saudi Arabia, to highlight the opportunities which Kingdom presents in construction sector with the help of a presentation.
Thank you again, Ms. Ritu. I would like to extend my thanks for His Excellency Dr. Awsaf, the Ambassador of India in the Kingdom, for his tremendous introduction. I was actually taking points of the elements that I missed to mention, and gladfully you have mentioned them, so really appreciate it. When we are talking about the real estate and construction sector in the Kingdom, I would have to echo the sentiments presented by His Excellency. The Kingdom is undergoing tremendous change in terms of the real estate and construction sector. Several projects are being planned in the pipeline, whether from the government sector, the sovereign fund of the Kingdom, the public investment fund, or the private sector. We will take you through a snapshot, but I understand that we will not be able to cover everything. We will save room for later for additional inquiries. Before I begin with the presentation, I would like to just give a few snapshots on the targeted aspects from the sector strategy in the Kingdom. Now, as you know, there was a lot of scattered organization within the sector. Recently, the Council of Ministers has approved the comprehensive real estate strategy of the Kingdom. And this entails specific target and metrics to be achieved to help grow the sector and its contribution to the Saudi economy. Part of this strategy will entail allowing more freedoms for foreigners to own real estate in the Kingdom, improving the services offered to the sector, protecting the real estate rights in the Kingdom, allowing for more sustainable development of assets throughout the spectrum of government and private sector projects. The sector aims to increase the contribution to the GDP from 7.59% of the economy to 8.79, as well, this is for construction only, as well as increasing the overall contribution to the GDP from 12.87 to 14.9% by 2030 through a series of reforms as well as government services to enable this growth. So, Well, it's a good thing I started speaking before I move to the slides. Okay, so when we start, why invest in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? As I mentioned, there is, since 2016, the launch of the Saudi Vision, the Saudi government has embarked on a series of reforms, a series of initiatives, projects, all aiming to grow key specific sectors, improve the quality of life, and create jobs and more opportunities for locals and internationals willing to come to the kingdom. Part of the basis of the vision, we have specific keystone milestones that we would like to hit by 2030. The most relevant to the sector is under the vibrant economy society, we aim to increase 35% of the contribution of SMEs in the kingdom. That can happen through improving the relationship between main contractors and subcontractors, between developers and contractors, to ensure that there is a cascading effects from these big projects, from large corporations to smaller entities. Increasing the FDI contribution to the GDP to 5.7%. This we are working on by making it easier to do business in the kingdom, easier to license, easier to set up, easier to own, acquire real estate, and turn it around as well. This also comes apart by specific milestones. We are working with the Capital Markets Authority, the Saudi Central Bank, to improve certain regulatory aspects that relates to liquidation of real estate and assist investors in entering the market, as well as finding a suitable exit to ensure that they maintain the growth of their investments and be able to allocate different funds. The main aspects that will be driving the investments going forward are privatization programs, localization of value chains, and giga and mega projects. When we look again at the Saudi economy, you can see it's one of the first in terms of growth rate in the next 5 years in the G20. It's the second in the lowest debt to GDP ratio. So this helps and allows the government to be able to have consolidated fundraising, consolidated debt management, as well as seeking to provide any liquidity injection that will help the economy survive any, let's say, shocks it may suffer in the next few years. So this puts us in a very resilient position to take advantage of the opportunities going in the future. If we look relatively in the size, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is larger than the UK, Spain, France, Germany, Italy combined. It's also about 1/4 of the size of the USA. Taking that into consideration, you also have a growing population, which is forecasted to hit 44 million people in the kingdom, along with additional, let's say, increase in moving from foreigners abroad into the kingdom, which we will touch upon later, the reasons why the kingdom is looking to attract more companies, more investors, more individuals to come work and invest in the kingdom. When we look at the real estate sector in the kingdom and construction, we can divide it on a series of specific assets. Each have different strategies and dynamics that will drive the growth in the future years. If we look, for example, at the residential, you have the Ministry of Housing taking on major projects to increase the supply of residential units in the market. We have other experiments like Roshan Company from the Public Investment Fund, who is seeking to also deliver 600,000 units of social housing in the kingdom across multiple cities. If you look at commercial and retail, there is also strong presence of entertainment, of new methods of retail, conquering not just the major cities in the kingdom, but also expanding to other regional hubs beyond the 3 main cities, as well as increased demand from industrial, infrastructure, and hospitality. All of these will seek to combine and generate major demands for the construction industry going forward. As well as an additional demand in the services, we have the National Project Management Office that is looking to seek and offer companies contracts of providing expertise in project management, facility management, to help increase, let's say, the efficiency of managing government assets. If we look at the future, the Ministry of Investment have conducted a study to capture the demand from today to 2030, to let us know, to take a peek into the future. What are the asset classes? What is the demand that we are anticipating, to understand how we can provide this in the future? So if we're looking from now till 2030, we're looking at 1.2 billion square meter of built up area to be developed in the kingdom, 231 million square meters in middle class residential, 153 million square meters in upper class residential, and 138 million in social housing. In addition to 129 million square meters of commercial assets and 75 million square meters in industrial. As well as these multiple assets, we have additional investments going into infrastructure, whether hard or soft infrastructure, being driven by the National Infrastructure Fund, as well as multiple royal commissions and development authorities as ministries of transportation, housing, and municipal affairs. All of these projects and expansions will seek to add to this growing demand, increase opportunities for the private sector to participate through dynamic, new, innovative privatization programs. We are seeking to reform the privatization law in the kingdom and to upscale the foreign investment law as we speak. All of these factors, along with the growing demand, will ensure there is a sustainable future for the sector in the kingdom, and it will be more attractive and more profitable for those entities working in it going forward. Beyond those, until it responds, I would also like to, before I'm, this is the site. So something that we might have not mentioned yet, His Excellency mentioned Mecca and Medina as well. There is multiple projects right now going in Mecca and Medina beside the expansion of Al-Haram. We have Ru'a Mecca, Ru'a Al-Haram, we have Ru'a Al-Medina, we have the Knowledge Economic City, we have multiple government-funded projects as well as private sector projects. We are also working on developing the regulation for Usufruct to allow foreigners who seek to own assets in the two holy cities. They will be able to have this opportunity going in the future. This, along with the growing demand of 30 million pilgrims annually and the growth in tourism, Mecca and Medina should have a prime position as a demand driver in the future. In addition to those, we have multiple mega and giga projects we are working on around the kingdom, including a few of special economic zones we are looking to launch within this year that will have major economic impact and will seek to drive investments around key strategic targeted areas of the main economy. Some of which I will touch upon, like the King Salman International Complex for Maritime and Industrial Services, the Integrated Logistics and Bonded Zone, King Abdullah Financial District. We have the 3 giga projects in the PIF portfolio, the NEOM, Red Sea, Giddiya, and a few other projects that are in the pipeline, whether in Mecca, Medina, Jeddah, Riyadh, or Dammam. So definitely there is a vertical expansion across major cities and across creating new hubs for investment. These projects don't come as a standalone. There is also multiple value added within the supply chain and the value chain of the industry. We're talking services, we're talking material, we're talking construction equipment, machinery. All of these subsectors, The kingdom has a plan to attract investment in the kingdom. We have incentive files ready for investors seeking to grow their assembly line, seeking to grow their supply chain within the kingdom. And we would like to help so we'll start at King Abdullah Economic City. Of course, next week we are having the International Golf Tournament there, powered by the Public Investment Fund and Saudi Golf. There is multiple projects recently announced there, and there will be an additional projects announced in the future. Already 110 investors attracted with a total value of $14+ billion of investment. We have Knowledge Economic City in Medina, as I mentioned, and His Excellency mentioned. It's a 7 square kilometer project size that will seek to capture 6 to 8 million visitors to the holy city of Medina. We have NEOM, the futuristic city. We did not have the chance to include all the information on the line project that was recently announced, but we will seek to provide additional information and help investors communicate with NEOM, understand how they can participate, as well as we are currently working with NEOM to help investors seek opportunities in the industrial valley, whether it's providing construction technologies for a few of the assets that are looking to be built in the first phase, and to set up to be part of the supply chain that will be present within the city for the next years coming forward. So 26,000 kilometers, 16 sectors, and $500 billion worth of investment. Then we move on to the Red Sea project, the most advanced of the giga projects, I would have to say, an approved master plan and all of the assets already. The labor camp and the employee camp started construction and operation. As mentioned by the Chief of Staff of the Red Sea project, they expect 2023 to have the first packages of assets signed off, ready to execute, and some progress in execution there. In addition to the developing 90+ Christine Islands, 8,000 hotel rooms, the project will also seek to have inland hotels, inland services, commercial, agriculture. So it will also serve a few other sectors where there will be opportunities for developing infrastructure and superstructure as well. As we speak, they are developing the runway in Red Sea Airport, and soon they will announce the design package for the main airport building. We'll be happy to guide companies looking for the qualification and tendering for that. Qiddiya project, which is southeast of Riyadh, 334 kilometers, 2022, the first phase of completion. There are multiple assets being developed, a Six Flags theme park, some residential, upper class residential villas, some middle class housing being spoken about, as well as a potential Formula track and multiple other assets being developed. So being in close proximity from Riyadh, it should have a good access to infrastructure right now. It should have close proximity to a cluster of the supply chain that we're looking to base in Riyadh and incentivize. So it will be a very strong demand driver for investments going forward. Other than that, we have Amala, a health and well-being destination that is also being developed on the Red Sea. It's around 3,000 kilometers. It will have 800 residential villas and 3,800 hotel rooms. As well as His Excellency mentioned the Diriyah Gate. It's also very advanced as a project. They already began in the construction work of one of the heritage hotels. They are looking to develop a few golf courses and major assets around the site itself. It will also expand westbound, and there will be many opportunities to develop supporting asset classes from that area of the project. It's anticipated to have $17 billion worth of investment just to restore the element that is a UNESCO heritage site. The King Abdullah Financial District already has 22 world-renowned architects and design firms that worked on these buildings. Some of the companies I have spoken to are already working on finalizing and redoing the facade for the main buildings. We are hoping to have this project fully operational within the second or third quarter of this year, up to the fourth quarter. And I believe there will be big plans to attract multinational companies to the site and increase the attractiveness of it as a financial and a business district in the heart of Riyadh. We also have Roshan Real Estate, which is the public investments fund entry into the housing market. They are looking to do social and middle class income housing projects. They're planning to have 395,000 residential units. Also, those will be complemented by multiple hospitality, commercial, retail, and infrastructure projects to accompany these projects. So as you can see, we will share the links for companies to seek to get the qualification and the registration for these. I would like to conclude by saying what we've mentioned so far cannot cover the entire spectrum of the industry in the kingdom. It is still growing rapidly. I believe there is much more matureness in the market right now, and there will be more, let's say, moving out of the jitters of these new regulations, whether it's the Saudi Building Code, whether it's the new generic master plans of the few major cities. Once we pass those reform jitters, I think it will be a much more attractive market. I think there will be higher transparency, and I think there will be great opportunity for many Indian companies to come, set up, grow their business, and also create long and strong lasting partnerships with their Saudi counterparts. Thank you very much for hosting us today. I would be happy to take on any questions at a later date, and would be happy to give you my contact details to answer your queries and help you navigate any issues, any introductions that you may need to grow your business in the kingdom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hashim, for a detailed overview of Saudi vision and the ongoing projects in this sector. Taking the program ahead, I now request Senior AVP, Cluster Head for Infrastructure Sector in Invest India, Ms. Prerna Soni, to brief the audience about policy framework and future roadmap of India's construction sector.
Thank you so much. Please let me know when my presentation is visible.
Your presentation is visible, Ms. Prerna. Please begin.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to hear us and talk to listen to the investment opportunity that India has to offer across the construction sector. My name is Prerna and I'm here along with my colleague Ashwarya, and we'd like to talk to you about what really India has to offer with respect to construction across real estate and infrastructure. But before we go into construction and what is happening in the country, I would want to start with answering the question, why India? India currently is at an inflection point. We are at a stage wherein social, political, and economic reasons are all coming together for the benefit of the country to make sure that India is on the journey of transformation. We are one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and the reason for that is that various aspects of the Indian economy are working together. If I talk about the social aspects which are working in the benefit of the country, we are looking at a population of 1.5 billion by 2025. What is more interesting is that India is going to be the youngest population till the year 2070. 20% of the global workforce is going to come from India. If we talk about the political regime and the stability that has offered India, the growth that it is showcasing right now, we have more than 30 states currently, including union territories. And for all of these states, the one aspect which is working in the benefit of the country is that investments and economic growth have become an agenda for all political parties in the country, which is making sure that the country stays on track. If we talk about economics, India is set to be a GDP of 5 trillion by 2025. If I talk about only the consumer market in the country, we're looking at 4 trillion by 2025. All social, political, and economic reasons, as I said, are now working together to make sure that India grows. And because of this, India is showcasing various opportunities across sectors. If I talk about only, say, the consumer market, we are the third largest consumer market in the world. But what actually makes it interesting is that for the last 1 decade, India has been seeing a 13% year on year growth in the consumption in the country. Going forward as well, we are looking at a market of 4 trillion by 2025. But we've already said that, we're looking at a population of 1.5 billion people. Any Indian who was born in the 1990s spending somewhere around $80,000 in his or her lifetime. Any Indian born in the 2000s would spend more than $245,000 in his or her lifetime. Multiply that by 1.5 billion, which is going to be the population. That gives you the mass and the scale to which India is going to grow. This is actually visible across a lot of sectors. We are number one in attracting investments. We are number two in smartphone manufacturing, which is a very interesting story if it comes to what India has been able to showcase. There was a time 5 years back when it was said that electronics is the new oil problem for India. The reason for that was that India had only two companies that were manufacturing mobile phones in the country. From that, today we are in a position that we have more than 258 companies manufacturing mobile phones in India, making India only number second only to China in mobile phone manufacturing. This was done, and the focus of the government, the kind of incentives the government made, the production linked incentives the government has been able to provide in the electronic sector was the reason for this. Today, we are focusing on various other sectors. 10 other manufacturing sectors have been identified wherein some similar product linked incentives would be provided. The focus of doing all of this to make sure that the percentage contribution of manufacturing to our GDP, which at one point in time was 16%, can be increased to 25% by 2030. The reason I'm talking about manufacturing so much is to tell you that with that focus, there is now the next story that I would want to talk about, which is infrastructure development. If we talk about developed nations, if we talk about US or any country in the Europe, their logistics cost is somewhere in the range of 8 to 10%. India's logistics cost currently is somewhere between 14 to 16%. Any emerging market, when they look at infrastructure development, they would do that with the idea of providing what is the need of the hour at that point in time. A rail line is needed at a port, it would be constructed. You need a road expansion considering there is traffic more than what was anticipated. This is how normally infrastructure is developed across emerging markets. India has changed that completely. Today, we're sitting in a position where there is an absolutely integrated and concentrated perspective to infrastructure development across all sectors, be it roads, aviation, shipping, even renewable energy. All of it is being developed with the perspective of one, making movement easy in the country, considering the amount of manufacturing that we would do, and to reduce the logistics sector, the logistics cost. I would very quickly go through some of these sectors to showcase what really is the plan in the country. This map that you see on your screens is what our road sector looked at one point in time. The north, south, east, west, and red main grid. While India is the second largest road network with over 5.5 million kilometers, and the national highways alone, which 2% of the network carry 65% of our freight and 2% of our passenger traffic, it was imperative that we look at expansion of our road network. So the map that you showed, that you can see here, the plan is to go to what you see on your screens now. The to build a road network across the entire country, for which additional 66,100 kilometers of roads are being built. Phase one of 35,000 kilometers is under implementation, and a lot of it is already near completion. We are building national corridors, expressways, economic corridors in this particular plan. Moving on, I would want to talk to you about the railways journey of India. If you look at this map of India again, you would see that there is a movement of rail lines along the north, south, east, west, and golden quadrilateral again. India is currently doing is that we have which are mainly on the west side of the country. We have identified our production centers and resources which are on the eastern side of the country. Today, we are building a dedicated freight corridor. This dedicated freight corridor is exclusively for movement of freight, which can carry double the freight of a normal train currently. The idea of doing this is that if today you have to move from Delhi to Mumbai on a regular train line, it can take up to 10 to 12 days for that movement by road or by train. With the dedicated freight corridor coming into picture, this timeline would be reduced to less than 48 hours. Two of these, which are the eastern and the western freight corridors, are already under implementation. In addition to that, we are looking at a high-speed rail, but from a real estate perspective, one aspect which is very interesting here is railway stations. Considering the mass and scale of the country, we have identified 600 railway stations across the nation, wherein the idea is to make these railway stations commercial and residential real estate play as well. We have looked at stations all across the world, be it anywhere in Europe, you look at the London station or New York station. All of these stations have either commercial, or they would have offices or hotels. They would have some contribution, something to do with real estate in addition to a pure railway station. The plan for India is to do that for 600 railway stations. What actually makes it interesting is that the government of India, along with giving the station out, is also giving out land for development of real estate for a lease of 99 years. Moving on, what right now you would see on your screen is what we are doing in the shipping sector. The shipping sector in the country is, and this is a learning that we've taken from countries such as China. What China has been able to do is in Shanghai or Beijing or all of these cities which are close to the port is to build a cluster. What India is also planning to do is build clusters across all of our coastal zones. To give you a bit of a perspective, India has more than 7,500 kilometers of coastline. We currently have 212 ports. The plan is to build additional 7 ports and to enhance capacity in our existing ports. The bigger aspect when we talk of it from a construction perspective is also the coastal economic zones that we would plan to build. To give you a simple example, the area around Kochi, which is in the south of India in the state of Kerala, has a lot of wood which can be used for furniture manufacturing. So this entire region has been considered a furniture coastal economic zone wherein furniture can be manufactured either for the perspective of exporting out of the country or for domestic use. Similarly, all of these 14 coastal economic zones which have been identified have one or two focused sectors which have been identified for which significant amount of construction is underway. In the last 5 years before COVID struck, India had more than 20% year-on-year growth in the domestic aviation sector as well. To give you an example, the airports in Delhi and Mumbai were supposed to be used up to their capacity by the year 2024. However, only in the year 2019, both of these airports are right now used above their capacity, which is why 2 additional airports are being developed both in Delhi and Mumbai. We are talking about development of 100 new airports in the country with a planned expenditure of over $62 billion. The Jewar airport, which is coming just next to Delhi alone, is going to cost over $3 billion to the country. This has already been bid out and construction for the same is starting very soon. I would now want to talk about mass rapid transit systems. India currently has 8 cities which have a running metro system. We have 13 cities which have metros under construction and 13 more wherein metros are under planning. However, if I talk about the future, we are looking at 50 cities in India which would have some form or fashion of a metro or a metro light existing in the country. With the kind of civil construction that is needed and the requirement for rolling stock that we're talking about, this is a huge construction opportunity, which would need capital investment of over $500 billion in the next decade. I'd like to put a little bit more perspective to the infrastructure development that I've spoken about and tie it back to the manufacturing angle that we were talking about. If we talk about manufacturing, as I said, there are certain zones that have been identified. What you see on the screen right now are the industrial corridors, which are spread all over the country. Sorry, I'd just like to interrupt here and ask if everybody can see my presentation on industrial corridors. I understand in the embassy, it is still on railways. Should I reshare it if there is a concern? Please let me know if you can see the right slide on industrial corridors. If somebody could kindly let me know, please. I would just wait here for a minute. The embassy just sent across a message. They would want me to wait for 5 minutes. So I'll just pause my presentation here for a minute, please. Apologies for this. Thank you. Back on. So I was talking about integrating the manufacturing story that we were talking about to the infrastructure development that the country is doing. What you see on the screen right now are the industrial corridors that we are developing, as I mentioned, and I'd like to highlight probably one of them, which is what is highlighted in the screen, which is the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor. What we are doing currently is this is a huge center of consumption and production for the country, which is why we are developing 8 smart cities in this region. There is a plan for new airports. There is a plan for a dedicated freight corridor. There is a plan for a high-speed rail. We have power plants coming in. We're building 2 new ports here. The idea to tell you is that, you know, the manufacturing centers which have been identified and are being developed across the nation are also the regions wherein we are developing all of our infrastructure as well. And there is a very integrated view towards developing all of our infrastructure. To tie it all together, we are looking at our logistic centers as well, our logistics parks as well. Here I'd go back a little in history and talk about the pre-goods and services tax era, which was before 2017, wherein India was a consolidation of 29 different states, which had a very different taxation regime. Because of that, India had different markets per se. So anybody who had to cater to the Indian market had to have certain smaller warehouses across all states to cater to the requirement of that state only. Post the goods and services tax regime, which came into picture in 2016, India has become one nation, one market. What that means is that I can have a multimodal logistic park, say somewhere around Delhi, which can cater and address to all of my North India. With that perspective, 35 multimodal logistic parks have been identified across the nation. If you would look at the map again, these again are around the same areas where industrialization is happening. These are again close to our consumption and production centers spread across the nation. When we're looking at development of these logistic parks, the government is providing trunk infrastructure wherein all multimodal connectivity to either 2 or more ways of movement, be it rail, road, airport, or even inland waterways, is going to be provided by the government, wherein the private party would have to come in and get a long-term concession along with the land parcel and trunk infrastructure for development of these MMLPs. What I would now want to start talking to you about is the real estate sector. Before I go into details of the real estate sector, I'd like to talk to you about what is it that is happening in the overall picture when we talk about real estate. In the last 7 years, till the year 2019, there has been some slump that we have seen on the residential real estate aspects. But if you put it in perspective, really, the reason that was happening was mainly because there was not enough affordability in the Indian market. If we talk about industrial real estate, the reason that there was not enough growth was there was not enough clusterization happening. And commercial real estate, we had significant amount of real estate that was developed already, which was being picked up by sovereign wealth funds and pension funds. And there was more and more development happening on a need basis. Today, we are sitting in a very, very different picture. Let's start talking about residential real estate. Going back a little in history again, in 2009, when the global financial crisis occurred, there was a reduction in interest rates all across the world. India was one exception. Because of the tight monetary policy that we had at that point in time, India's domestic interest rates did not fall. Because of that, there was a lack in increase of demand for real estate. Now, if we talk about the supply side, there was a lot of stress in the market. Now come forward to 2019, by the end of the year, there was a significant amount of consolidation that had happened on the supply side. That was one, because of consolidation of promoters. Second, because of policies such as GST, land acquisition, real estate regulatory authority coming into the picture, so on and so forth. To talk about the demand aspect, and when COVID struck, the first view that was there was that the demand would further take a slump now, considering incomes are taking a hit. However, surprisingly, 2020 has shown us a very different picture. Residential real estate, which actually contributes to around 7.8% of India's GDP, has taken an uptick since the time COVID struck. The main reason for this is affordability and reduction in interest rates. India is for the first time seeing interest rates as low as they are in the country. Today, in domestic currency terms, anybody can borrow at a rate of somewhere around 6.5% if they would want to buy residential real estate in India. What is also interesting is if you look at the ratio of housing loan repayment to income, it's at all-time lowest of 27 in the country, as against the 50 which it has been since 2010. This, along with the government focus on housing for all and affordable housing, wherein major investors such as ADIA and bankers from India have come together, is how we see the residential real estate story come up the curve in the country now. If we talk about commercial real estate, there was there was actually a study done by CapitaLand, which is a Singapore-based entity, on the top 10 cities from where commercial real estate requirement would come in all of Asia. 60% of the office need of all of Asia would come from 4 main cities in India. And as I mentioned, more than 90% of all of these commercial real estate, which has already been developed, currently is held by one or the other institutional investors. These are pension funds, these are sovereign wealth funds from all over the world. Today, we're sitting in a position that there is a requirement for additional commercial real estate, which is being developed by local promoters as well as international players within the country. And as we have already spoken about industrial requirement, considering the amount of manufacturing that is happening in India, there is a requirement for industrial clusters and industrial spaces being built in the country. If I talk about only warehousing, India's top 8 cities have 307 million square feet of warehousing stock, and we have 193 million square feet of further potential on the existing land that is available. This is just one part of the large opportunity that India still has to offer. Another interesting statistic for you, India has 30 people which move from a village to a city per minute, which means by the year 2025, we would have 863 million people living in our cities. India's cities certainly do not have the capacity and the capability to absorb 863 million people, which is why we have identified 100 cities which will be developed as smart cities. These would either be greenfield cities or rejuvenation of existing cities. We have also identified 500 tier 2 cities which would be brought up the curve and made into tier 1 cities. There's a significant amount of construction requirement across all of these cities which are right now under development, with the aspect of being smart cities. Now that we've spoken about some brief of the kind of opportunity India has to offer across real estate and across infrastructure, I'd like to tell you who we are. Aishwarya and I, who are here to talk to you today, belong to a government agency called Invest India. Our work is to work within the government ecosystem with all private investors. We work with the central government. We work with all state governments. We work with any industry to make sure that investment is brought into the country in the most smooth way possible. So like we are talking to you today, we would continue to tell all investors about the opportunity. We would help in their business advisory. We would help in strategizing and implementation of investments, and we work as long-term partners. If we talk about Saudi in particular, there's been a long-term relationship that India has had with Saudi Arabia. In the recent past, there have been various strategic dialogues and visits between the two countries, which have strengthened the relationships further. For our team alone, we have seen a very progressive growth of FDI coming in from Saudi Arabia to India which has grown 4 times in only 1 year from 2018 to 2019. And currently, we have a dedicated team which is working on Saudi Arabian investments coming into the country, wherein we already have a pipeline of 11 billion. We wanted to showcase one very big aspect of how we would want to help any investor who's coming to the country. Currently, we have a project development cell, which is more of an investment facilitation cell across all ministries. So anybody who would want to invest in the country in any of the sectors that we've spoken or beyond, we have a dedicated team working with the highest level in every ministry to make sure that the investment journey is absolutely smooth. In addition, an empowered group of secretaries has been set up, which comes under the chairmanship of the Cabinet Secretary of India, which is the highest level in bureaucracy in the country. The idea is to make sure that all incentives which might be needed by the investors can be made made on a menu basis depending on what the investor is requiring in the country. And this is to just give you a snapshot of how is it that we work with investors. This is a case study of a real estate giant from UAE who had invested in India. They reached out to us in 2017 with certain issues that they had while investing in the country. We worked with the chief minister, which is the highest rank in a particular state, through 1.5 years to make sure all of their issues are resolved. As a very critical and a very self-conscious team, we would want to reduce this time further. And our focus at Invest India is to make sure that your investment journey in the country is absolutely smooth. We welcome you to invest in India and become a part of the growth and transformation story of the country. And to tell you that as Invest India, we'd be very happy to help you through your investment journey. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Soni. I now request Dr. Praveen Swarup, Director General, Construction Industry and Developments Council, who has joined us virtually, to brief the audience on the subject matter.
Thank you. And I'm so happy to be in this meeting today. And I was listening very intently to what His Excellency Dr. Asaf Saeed spoke about. And of course, Ms. Prerna Soni, and before her, Mr. Fahad Al-Hashmi. And I think this is a very good initiative where the two friendly countries are going to be working together. And I welcome this particular initiative, with the core of my heart. And this is a wonderful work that is being done now. I hope we are all able to put the things together and we are able to push up the things. I will not go with the statistics because I think Ms. Soni has already spoken quite a lot about it, and His Excellency Dr. Saeed also has spoken about it. So I think you have a fairly good idea as to what India has to offer. But I guess that I will be speaking on one particular issue, and that is that there is substantial amount of work in both the countries. Whether we talk of Saudi Arabia or we talk of India, there is huge amount of work that has to be done. The plans are all fine. The projects will be starting and people will be working on that. But I think let us try to focus on one issue, and that is enabling of the things. And that is where at the outset, I request all the participants in this meeting and even beyond this, to whosoever they can reach, to visit our website of Construction Industry Development Council of India, which is an organization which was set up by the Planning Commission, Government of India, with the support of number of ministries, and especially so with number of major construction companies. And let me also express my thanks that some of our finest companies are represented here. We have Larsen and Toubro, and we have representatives from Mr. Shapurji Palanji and others who are here. So I think that's a good choice of the panelists that we have here. Now, what exactly CIDC can do in this whole work that we are talking about? I think enabling is something which is going to be the key word. How exactly are we going to be executing these huge projects, both in India as well as in Saudi Arabia. And that is where I think CIDC has to play a very important role. We have been doing this in India for almost 25 years now. This March of 2021, we'll be completing 21 years. So once again, my request, kindly visit our website to have a look at the kind of things that we are able to do and we have been able to do in past 25 years, and then reach out to us. I was just watching that there was a suggestion from one of the participants that there should be some kind of a forum that will be created so that, you know, the exchange of views and especially the agencies who are involved with the developmental work in Saudi Arabia as well as in India can have a free exchange of ideas and can have the enabling activities. You require men, you require you require equipment, you require technology, and lot many other management skills that will be needed for executing such kind of jobs. And that too, when we are talking about a huge quantum of work to be done. So I think that's where we can play a very important role, and we can look at the human resources, both the development as well as sourcing of them. We can also look at number of organizations who might be very interested to come in, and many of them would come from our membership only. We can look at the right kind of vendors who can provide the equipment, who can provide the the provide the kind of things that are needed for executing the projects. I have been working as a construction engineer and managing projects in India for last almost 47, 48 years. And what has told me is that it is almost like a kind of a village event that one has to have. You have to have all the support and all the goodwill of everyone who is around you. So I think this is a wonderful initiative, and let us remain in dialogue. I know there is limited time with us, but we have to look at the issues as to where exactly are the people going to come by. Where are the young engineers who will be there manning the works at the site? What are the policy related issues, both in India as well as in Saudi Arabia? So we would definitely like to kind of interact with our counterparts in Saudi Arabia, either the ministry or the kind of policy makers who are there, because our business has been to make the policies and make sure that they are implemented also. And I think that is precisely where we can play a very important role. We can look at the researchers, we can conduct the studies for that matter. There is a lot of intelligence input that will be needed when the associations are made or the joint ventures are made, lest they go wrong. And my own experience tells me that if it is not done properly, then possibly you end up into a much bigger mess than one can ever expect or imagine. So I think those are the areas that we have to focus on. See, the quantum of work and the wish list has been all chalked out. But how exactly do we deliver? That is something which is extremely, extremely important. Another thing which we have to really focus on is the kind of ingress of latest technology for that matter. Now, my organization is in active dialogue and discussion, and of course, in the network with more than 3,800 technical institutions in the country. Number of the students are basically undergoing the internship programs, and close to about 500,000 construction workers also undergo the vocational training programs, which has now been mandatory for execution of the projects. You know, the apex agencies like Central Public Works Department of Government of India has already introduced necessary provisions so that the workers who work on the projects, they are properly skilled and certified. I think this is another area that our friends in Saudi Arabia would be very keen to know, and I shall be very happy to provide any kind of assistance or any help in that, because we are the people who are executing it for that matter. So once again, I must say that it was wonderful to be here with all of you. I'm not going to take a longer time because there are others who are going to be speaking, and especially from our top-notch corporate houses, companies, who would speak about their perspective as to how exactly they would be in a position to delve into the business which comes out of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And once again, I assure all of you that our cooperation will ever be ready. I will request Ms. Yadav to remain in touch with us. And I think this association is going to be very, very worthwhile. With that, I give best wishes to you all in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. May God bless us all. Let us work like friends. Let us do the things together. And that's going to help us out. Thank you so much and very good day to you. I will be available to answer any questions that you may have, but I will have to go muted now and I will have to be closing my video, but I will be listening to even to the last speaker here. Thank you so very much. Ms. Yadav, can you take it over?
Thank you, Dr. Karu. I would like to highlight that SIBN is already existing for the collaboration suggested by you. I'm sure that the SIBN team will get in touch with you. Fortunately, our next speaker is from SIBN itself. I request the head of construction sector in SIBN Riyadh sector, Mr. MP Rao, country head of L&T in KSA, to share his ideas regarding SIBN's role to boost bilateral collaboration in construction sector.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all. Am I audible?
Yes, Mr. Rao, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ms. Ritu Yadav and His Excellency Dr. Asif Said, Honorable Ambassador of India to Saudi Arabia. First of all, my sincere regrets and apologies for not having made myself present in the forum in person. Due to some reasons, I could not travel yesterday. I think some calculation of my number of days of UAE got missing and I was made to come back from the airport and back in the Sharjah office. I'm very sorry for that. First of all, it's really a pleasure to be here and representing one of the biggest construction companies or the engineering company of India, Larsen & Toubro in Saudi Arabia. And with my presence in the Middle East almost for the last 15 years and almost about 30 years in the organization, I've seen both sides of the country, I mean, whether it's Saudi Arabia as well as in India. And half of my, whatever the notes that I made to speak was taken away by Mrs. Prerna Soni as well as speaker from Saudi, Mr. Fahad Al-Hashmi. So half of my job is already done by them. So I'll have to probably change my track of speech, which probably I thought that I'll be doing today. Let me go back a little, I mean, step a little back, maybe some 5 years back or so. The relationship between Saudi and India went for another step altogether when our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, visited Saudi Arabia in the year 2016. Immediately after that, if you remember, Saudi Arabia honored India by making us the guest of honor for their all-important Janadriya festival in 2018. And even the Prime Minister was awarded the highest civilian award by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And His Royal Highness Prince Salman visited India in 2019. And Saudi investment in India was planned to be ramped up almost to a value of around $100 billion. The quota for Hajj pilgrims from India was also committed to be increased to around 2,000. And once again, in order to solidify the relationship between the two countries, the Prime Minister once again visited in 2019 for the what we call as the Davos of the desert. He was there for a day wherein I think India's strategic partnership with Saudi in line with Vision 2030 was established. Various MOUs were signed for enhancement of engagement in sectors like petroleum, energy, defense, medicine, aviation, etc. Now, from this political, I'll just switch on to the commercial thing. Saudi Arabia is definitely, as known to everyone, is the fourth largest trade partners for India after China, USA, and Japan. Since 2016, upward trend was witnessed. Total trade increased almost from $26 billion to $40 billion. Of course, in the year 2020, there was a little bit of contraction because of the COVID. In the meantime, major Indian companies and the corporate groups like whether it's L&T, the Tatas, the Wipro, the TCIs, the Shipuji, Pulonji, etc. They've established a strong presence in the kingdom. Also, Sagia is in talks with Indian startups like, whether it's Oyo, Delivery, FirstCry, Grow First, Policy Bazaar, Paytm, etc., to name a few. And investment in India in oil and gas sectors have really increased with that commitment of Aramco as well as ADNOC for almost about $40 billion. And recently, everybody remembers PIF signed a definitive agreement to acquire almost about 2.5% of stakes in India's geo market. Geo platforms are almost about $1.5 billion US. So this is the scale of involvement of Saudi Arabia in India. Similarly, the Indian regime in Saudi Arabia. Now, coming back to advantages of India, as I said already, Ms. Soni has already said almost all the things that I wanted to tell. Whether it's the stable government and the decision making has been pretty transparent and very fast compared to the other country, probably the timelines. And India, as already briefed, is expected to be the third largest construction market in the world. Investment is almost about approximately the back of the envelope calculation would be around $2 trillion by 2025. The major areas, as what already said, is housing, smart city, aviation, railways, metros, etc. And just to confirm that these are not only the paper, I think majority of the people would be knowing that recently Larsen & Toubro signed up for this high-speed rail of 500 kilometers from Ahmedabad to Bombay, almost about $5 billion. That is one of the biggest order, probably backed by, it is not probably, it is the biggest single order taken by L&T in all these 75 or 80 years of our existence in this market. So it is growing. It is definitive. There are places and there are areas of investment in India, and a lot of places the 100% FDI is permitted. Then the Make in India policy and that Atmanirbhar Bharat, what the PM keeps on telling, it gives a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs and SMEs and industries to set up their ventures out here in India. Now, post-COVID, yes, it is a struggle for all. I think India is taking it head on. Almost about the vaccination drive, it's supposed to be at the highest scale, and highest thing is already done. And I'm very sure that the revival of aviation, hospitality, or entertainment sector is only a matter of time before all these paradigm shifts and all are assimilated, and it's going to jumpstart once again. And India, the good thing over there is availability of the workforce. A lot of young people, the average age being 35 plus, skilled manpower. All those things really make India an attractive and a place to be in. Now, that's about what India has got to offer. Similarly, on what Saudi has to offer, we have already heard from the concern from Saudi about the NEOM, Amalas, the Red Sea, Qiddiya, and Spark. These are, of course, it does take some time when these things stick onto the when it comes to the execution stage. Of course, like what is already said, good lot of projects have already kicked in and people have started working on that. Only my request would be, in order to have a real work plan for the companies like L&T or Shipuji, it would be better if we have some frequent meetings with these sort of mega projects and to find out the timeline and the packaging that is usually done, so that we are also ready to take up the challenge. And what happens over here is all of a sudden we get a request for participation on our, say, for example, for a high-speed rail. It all of a sudden it came, though we were not prepared. So it would be very nice. I mean, if at all we have like what somebody had already messaged over here, we have got a small working group which can probably meet these people individually or collectively and find out what is the timeline, etc., etc. And we have already, whether it's L&T or Shipuji or Tata's, we are there for quite a long time. We know how this the country works and the rules and regulations and what all things that we need to take care. And from SIBN and being L&T as well as SIBN with a common cap, I can assure you from the SIBN's perspective, telling that whoever is interested in coming and working in Saudi Arabia, will be there to handhold them, guide them, and probably to explain them the nuances of business out in Saudi Arabia. And one more probably, I think, which if at all, I want to give some constraints sort of a thing in Saudi Arabia for PPP works. I would probably say that, a little bit of Exim Banks of India is, I mean, whenever we talk to them, they say that they are okay to creating a single window approval system for financing, etc., for a PPP job. And even the government agencies from Saudi Arabia, if at all, they can think something in terms of, what do you call it, the sovereign guarantees or some guarantees of that sort for the infrastructure projects. This will help us in a great way to get this financial and investment through export credit agencies. I think this is all I have right now, because a lot of my my talks have been taken away by the rest of the people. We'll be there shortly, inshallah, and we'll be in touch. We'll be talking to the industry people as well as, India as well as in Saudi Arabia. Anything of services from our end of SIBN, we are always there. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. I now request Mr. Jawhar Gaganal, Country Head Shapoorji and Kalonji Group, to share his insights with reference to today's discussion.
His Excellency, Ambassador of India, dignitaries from various ministries from Saudi Arabia, India, the executives from various companies from both sides who are physically present here and who are attending this meet virtually. A very warm greetings and very good afternoon to all. While my preceders have talked about the opportunities on both sides, my emphasis would be more on, we are already having a fair bilateral relationship. How do we scale up this relationship in the construction industry? Before I get into the topic, I would like to introduce our company. The benefit of local executives who are available here, whom we are and what we have been doing specifically the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and what's our role in the construction industry here. I'll take a few seconds before I get into, as I represent Shapoorji Pallonji here. Well, we are a 154 years old construction company, predominant presence in India, Middle East, and Africa. We have close to 1,000 staff here in Saudi Arabia, and now 9,000 workmen in this country. We have started our journey in this country 11 years back and scaled up our operations, delivered some of the best projects in this country. I'll just put a few of the projects which we have delivered across the nation. And what we are doing, iconic projects at this moment. Some of our iconic ongoing projects include the SABIC Global Headquarters in Dubai, King Abdullah Financial Districts, we are doing almost 12 towers. And the recent addition is we're working for Roshan Real Estate for the new housing project for them. So these are some of the iconic projects which we're working on. Coming to the subject, well, as I mentioned, both the nations have excellent bilateral relationship in various sectors, including the construction sector. While Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has potential construction opportunities for Indian companies on proposed mega projects like Qiddiya, Amala, Niam, Diriyah Development Authority, and of course the sectors includes various commercial, residential, energy, utility sector. These are the various sectors where there are ample opportunities for the construction companies to tap for. At the same moment, as my preceders presented here, there's a great opportunities, a window of opportunities in terms of infrastructure in India, whether it's PPP mode or investment mode or government financed. But yes, there is an opportunity in terms of infrastructure as presented. While, as I mentioned earlier, my focus would be more on, while we have a relationship, the two countries are working together, especially specific to construction sector. How do we scale up our sector to take it to greater heights or to deliver more challenging and iconic projects? That's my focus. Well, I would share my thoughts. How do we scale up by focusing on some of the specific topics like cooperation in technology, exchange of research and development, education and training across the countries, nurturing local talent, and the last but the least is exploring the materials which are available locally on both sides, while using that in the construction center which are applicable. At the same time, enhance the trade and usage of this material to leverage on both sides. So that's the focus of my presentation. When I talk about cooperation in technology, well, all of you know that in every sector there is a digitalization happening. When I say the technology, it's all about digitalization in construction. Many of Indian companies have implemented digitalization in construction extensively, including we. Well, when I call about the digitalization, it's more about how do we utilize the plant and machinery, materials, workmen in an optimal manner, utilizing the digital technologies which are available in the market, like applying the RFID through IoT platform, plant and machinery, materials, and workmen. These initiatives will help monitor productivity, better utilization, and overall cost optimization. I personally feel that cooperation and collaboration in digitalization would certainly help companies on both sides in scaling up the construction sector here. The second biggest aspect I feel is the exchange of research and development, education and training. Well, as many of you know that we are one of the world's third largest education hub, close to 1,000 universities in India. Well, I'm sure there are exchange programs between the two nations in terms of education or exchange program for students and training across both the countries. Well, I would like to mention we have some of the best and best R&D institutes in terms of construction technologies. Few to mention Central Building Research Institute, National Council for Cement and Building Materials, Civil Research Institute, of course, my visitor who spoke on the CIDC. These are some of the institutes where there's a lot of research being ongoing in terms of construction materials, various construction aspects. So the sharing of research, research and development across the nations would certainly help the construction sector. The other aspect I would like to mention is, as I mentioned about the exchange of program between the students, I should say that we have some of the premier institutions which train students in construction sector, like NIPMAR, National Institute of Construction and Management, some of the best courses in IITs, and also ISB program on infrastructure. Well, these are the institutes which are interconnected through industry, the construction industry in India. I'm sure the exchange program, or if the students from here are connected at a government to government level to attend these programs in India, and it would help them to enhance the skills in these areas and would certainly contribute to implement their learnings in the construction industry here. So this is one of the aspects I thought I should share, the R&D as well as the student exchange program, how it would enhance and help construction industry here. The other big aspect is, as many of Indian construction companies are operating here, including me, We take a lot of fresh graduates from various institutions here, offer them training on projects, and support them to grow in the organization and contribute to the construction industry here. I'm glad to say that as part of our association, we are above the benchmark of association in this country. And whoever graduates, we have trained, nurtured, and handled them as part of our construction activities. I'm glad to say on this platform that the local talent has really excelled. They are very committed and they have substantially contributed to the operations. So I'm sure as we go across, we would add a lot of local talent in the construction industry here. And certainly that would help the industry to take it to a bigger scale. The last and the least part, which of course I mentioned about this, on the building materials. There are some of the exclusive building materials which are available here, which are byproducts of the petroleum industry, which is the largest here. Like to mention few of them, to mention is waterproofing membrane, insulations, gypsum products. As I mentioned, these are all the byproducts which are exclusively available in the bulk here. If these materials are encouraged in India, that could improve the bilateral trade. Of course, as my predecessor mentioned, there are some agencies who do exclusive specialist works in construction here as well as in India. So the sharing of these materials and emphasizing to use a local material which is available exclusively here. One, it will help the construction industry to localize the material. Other side is, if you take up the material which are exclusively available and encourage the people in India or construction companies in India to use it, it will enhance the trade. So these are my thoughts. I'm sure the above four aspects, whatever I touched upon, collaboration on both sides in the above areas shall definitely benefit the construction industry at large. Overall, in terms of efficient use of resources, cost optimization, and would definitely help to scale up synergy between our nations in the construction. So I thank you. That's my conclusions. Well, thank you, Indian Embassy. Thank you, SIBN, for giving me an opportunity to speak on this event. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jawad. I request Mr. Mohammed Naim, General Manager, Masam Group, to address the audience.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon to one and all. Welcome to Saudi India Business Network SIBN. I'm blessed to have an opportunity to greet you all here today to this amazing event. I am also thrilled to share the stage. Indian Embassy and SIBN team, under the guidance of His Excellency Ambassador of India, Dr. Asaf Saeed, has been working hard to pull this together, and I hope you will be profited. I can see a lot of my colleagues and friends. However, for the rest of the other, I'd like to briefly introduce myself and my company. Myself, Muhammad Abdul Naim, civil engineer by profession and business entrepreneur by choice. I'm heading Masa Specialized Construction Company based in Riyadh and operating all over the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We have over $1 billion Saudi Riyal ongoing projects. To name it few, Aitan Rise luxury housing tower at Al Khubar Corniche. This is the iconic tower in the Khubar up to now is available. Al Musa Specialized Hospital, we use the lead techniques there, energy efficient. Stimaco headquarters in Al Khubar. Shamal Al Riyadh Healthcare Facility, which is the private biggest hospital in Riyadh, including 4,000 car parking, is going on in Riyadh. And Hitil Palace, which is the best palace and designed by more than 10 consultants, started during the COVID in Riyadh. So I'm blessed to announce to you that we have been shortlisted for the prestigious project and first of its kind of Saudi Arabia in Saudi Aramco. We Massage Specialized Construction is positioning ourselves and aligning our business operation to meet the opportunities and challenges future to hold all of us. I would like to give you an idea of what we can expect and what we can hope achieve together, both Saudi and business-based contractors. So most of the points already highlighted other speakers, which is Vision 2030. The Vision 2030 is being followed with great planning under the able leadership of His Royal Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman under the supervision of His Majesty King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. The sectors are like tourism, entertainment, hospitality, commercial, oil and gas, industry, and infrastructure. Saudi Arabia is moving forward, and it will be epicenter of next big bang. Recent announcements of His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman July. The top 10 projects of Saudi Arabia will show on the. Are you ready to be a part of exciting journey of these projects? As a part of my presentation today, I am going to bring this audience the immense potential India offers to the professional of fast progressive construction companies and industry in Saudi Arabia. Through central government recent reforms, Digital India, Making India, Smart Cities, Land Acquisition and GST, the country has seen a positive economic growth. The construction industry has around 8% contributions of Indian GDP, 8 to 9% contribution to Indian GDP. Overview of potential business opportunity for Saudi construction companies in India. This infrastructure, roads, railways, ports, industrial corridors, power, and urban, all in details explained by Israel and the real estate, smart city, commercial, and housing township. These are the opportunities available in India. Making India is a bold initiative taken by our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, is ensuring that India is Atmanirbhar. will discuss further in a dedicated session under the banner of SIBN as we progress under the guidance of His Excellency Ambassador of India, Dr. Awsaf Saeed, and his team. Before I close, I would like to thank His Excellency Ambassador of India, Dr. Awsaf Saeed, Ritu Yadav, and SIBN team who put all this together. They work a lot and late nights trying to pull it all together, and we assure participate of their efforts. I want to wish in advance for Indian Republic Day. Assalamu alaikum.
With this, we reach the end of today's discussion. On behalf of the Embassy of India, I thank Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Investment, Saudi Center for International Strategic Partnership, Ministry of Industry, and also Invest India team and SIBN members. I also extend gratitude to all the esteemed speakers for today's event, who charted out the opportunities of collaboration with an in-depth analysis. Last but not least, thanks to all the attendees, virtual and physical, for participating and making this event successful. Thank you very much. I request the physical attendees to join us for refreshments outside. Thank you.